Okay, it's 7 o'clock. You may as well start. We're here. I know that's going. So good evening, everyone. Thank you. There's no fire alarms in plan for this evening. Should the alarm sound, please leave via the nearest available emergency exit. So the closest exits are through the glass doors behind you and to my left, and through the double doors on the riverside behind you. Please meet at Tower House car park. Members of the public are welcome to make their own recordings of this meeting using whatever non-disruptive methods they think are suitable. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being filmed and made available to view in live and archive form via the Council's website. If you're seated in the public gallery, it's possible that cameras may capture your image. If you wish to avoid being filmed, it is recommended you make a member of the staff aware who can direct you where to sit. The Westgate Gardens gate on the riverside is locked at sunset, so members of the public must leave the Guildhall by the side exit behind the glass doors. There are no representatives this evening from members of the public that are going to be talking, so we'll move straight through to the agenda part of the meeting. So welcome to that part of the meeting. This is a meeting of Cabinet. The Cabinet is part of the local council responsible for most day-to-day decisions. It is chaired by the leader, who is elected by the council, and that's me, Alan Baldock. The other Cabinet members are as follows: Councillor Sole, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Finance; Councillor Castle, Cabinet Member for Property and IT; Councillor Hazelton, Cabinet Member for Housing; Councillor Dawkins, Cabinet Member for the Environment and Climate Change; Councillor Charlotte Cornell, Cabinet Member for Council Services, Culture and Heritage; Councillor Chris Cornell, Cabinet Member for Economic Development and Inclusion and the Coastal Towns Champion; Councillor Ricketts, Cabinet Member for Tourism, Transport, Performance and Oversight and the Rural Champion; and Councillor Nolan, who is looking at community engagement, safety and enforcement. The Cabinet collectively provides strategic leadership to the Council. Lauren, do we have any absences? It's item 1.
We've got apologies from Councillor Dawkins, Chair.
Thank you for that. Declarations of interest by members or officers. Lauren, anything declared so far?
None in advance, Chair.
Is there anyone here that wishes to declare any interest now? Obviously you can if it comes through to debate and you feel there's a conflict anyway, so okay, that's fine. Okay, now we're on to announcements. I've got one, but any Cabinet members wish to make announcements? Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just take this opportunity to remind anyone who may be listening or here in the public gallery that the budget consultation we're currently undertaking finishes at 9 AM on the 6th of January. So if you've not got much to do over Christmas, please do let us know what you think of the budget.
Thank you. Charlotte.
Thank you, Chair. Just to remind the public, and we put some communications out about this, that with Christmas trees going up, it's a good time to plan for Christmas trees coming down. And if you don't have a garden waste subscription, then the council no longer collect your tree. So please make use of the various charities in Whitstable, Canterbury and Herne Bay that will collect, that you can take your tree to, and for a donation they will be disposed. Some of these require some serious booking in advance because they get popular, so please be organised and make that booking if you don't have a garden waste subscription. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlotte. That's wise advice. I should be doing exactly that. And thanks, Mike. And we had loads of people commenting last year on the budget, which was fantastic. So let's see whether we can beat that number this year. It'd be really good to get people's opinions. I have one announcement to do this evening. And broadly, we've moved through the local government reorganisation to the point where we're now waiting a decision. And I've been listening to repeated calls from many people around about town councils and parish council reorganisation and so on. So I've asked officers to prepare a report for January's Cabinet meeting which explores carrying out community governance review to consider whether there's any support for town councils and other options in support of the local community engagement. To ensure that there is any resulting actions or decisions can be actioned on CGR, the item is now included on the Council's forward plan. So we're set up to do wherever this goes, we now can get on with it in our decision-making process. So thank you, all of you, for those conversations we had a few days ago on that, and this will improve from now onwards. So thanks to that. Okay, Lauren, public participation?
We've got Councillor Heaver and Councillor Old this evening, Chair, talking about item 9.
Okay, so we called those two councillors before the item. Yeah, thank you. The next item is we need to consider and approve, if appropriate, the minutes of our last meeting on the 3rd of November and the 20th of November. It's two lots of, you remember we had a special meeting that night, didn't we? On the 20th before council. So I would seek a seconder for those two sets of minutes if I can.
Seconded.
Thank you, Mike. And if there's no comments on those, we can actually accept both of those sets of minutes by general assent. Are we happy with that? Okay, we accept those minutes by general assent, and thank you for that. Okay, item 6 now, references from committees and the agenda supplement, of course, which we've noted. So I think, first of all, I know Pip has got an announcement to make on this, so if you go first, Pip, and then we'll do the next bit after that, which is the overview committee.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So just to remind people that at Cabinet on the 6th of October, it was agreed to set up a Cabinet Advisory Committee to offer scrutiny and challenge in response to the Regulator for Social Housing's inspection of our housing services in July. So accordingly, I can announce that such a committee has been set up, consisting of 6 councillors, politically balanced, plus 2 tenant representatives who are equal and full voting members along with the councillors. We had our first meeting on the 27th of November, and it will act as a critical friend, making recommendations to us as they feel appropriate. Further meetings will be planned to coincide with progress meetings with the Regulator for Social Housing. So it's anticipated end of February, end of April, and probably quarterly thereafter. And that once we have seen the improvements that we need and want to see embedded, we can ask, and we will ask, to be re-inspected. And I'll come back to Cabinet to let you know progress on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Pip. Any comments from any other Cabinet members on that? I just think it's a cracking idea, and I'm really pleased that we've got 2 reps on there as full members of that committee. That seems really good move and really appropriate as well. So now we need to think about and note the minutes of the overview committee on the 6th of November and the Cabinet Advisory Committee, which Pip mentioned a little bit earlier. And the housing on the 27th of November, which is a supplement. So are there any comments on any of those meetings? Or, I mean, obviously it's good to have their feedback. The overview, I always find as an incredibly useful document to us to help us in our decision making. So any comments from any Cabinet members on that? I think they're particularly good references this time as well. So we appreciate that as well by the team in the overview. If we're happy, we can accept those comments and those references to committee by general assent. Happy with that? Thank you very much for that. Okay. Okay. So we're now at item 7, which is 6 monthly housing performance KPIs. I hand this one over to Pip, who's in charge of our Cabinet member for housing. I'll let you steer that one along, Pip. I know Marie is here as well, and the housing team. So if you can introduce the report, seek and seconder, and then hand over to the officers for comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. It is actually to note. It's not for a resolution. It's a report to note. So I always want to start by thanking staff for their diligence in preparing this report. It's a considerable piece of work, so thank you. I think we all know that housing is a highly regulated and inspected aspect of this council's business. and the key performance indicators reflect that, the range and complexity of the sector. There's an old saying about data collection, which is true. A pig doesn't get any fatter if you just keep weighing it. The main point of KPIs is to make the pig fatter. So in this report, we've got a huge amount of data, which is important, that it's the analysis and the commentary that shows where we need to focus effort, make changes, and then over time, trends will emerge, so the impact of those changes can be measured and efforts, if necessary, refocused. What we see here are several areas where our performance is not where we want or need it to be. This is essentially the legacy of East Kent housing management of our stock that was brought back in-house in October 2020. When we took over the administration in May 23, housing was understaffed, under-resourced, and had been neglected by the previous administration. In our manifestos, we promised improvements to our housing, and it now has strong management, renewed policies, tighter contracts, and the support of and direction of our administration. While I'm sure officers will be happy to answer any questions about the data itself, I'd like to draw particular attention in this report to the conclusions and learnings that have been used to change the way we do things, where resources are focused, and where training is being rolled out. Just bear with me. I've just picked out a couple of things to illustrate the focus and effort that's going into every aspect of our housing performance. So pages 34 to 45 show the created scorecards for each KPI with an at-a-glance commentary beside it, and there is fuller analysis in the body of the report. So, for example, on pages 41 and 42, we can see that Void's performance is RAG rated as red. But I can tell you that detailed analysis of each stage of the relet journey has happened, from tenant notification to property inspection, through work started and completed by the contractor, and from there to the new tenant start date. Tightening up processes at every stage of the journey has begun, and relet times are coming down month by month. In addition, resource has been focused in this area, and a Voids coordinator has been in post now for around 3 weeks, who will oversee the whole process. I look forward to significant improvements over the next reporting period as a result, so that the cycle of identifying a problem, looking at the evidence, designing and then implementing changes becomes part of the improvement cycle. I'll just pick out another example when it comes to compliance. The scorecards feature on pages 37 to 40. I'm pleased with progress in relation to the big six, which are fire, gas, electrical, lifts, Legionella, and asbestos testing and safety across our housing portfolio. While I'm pleased with progress, this remains a priority. I see performance data weekly, and I hold a monthly meeting with officers dedicated solely to this. So perhaps now's the right moment to stop giving further examples from the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions, receive any comments, and officers no doubt will be happy to. Thank you.
Yeah, did Chris go ahead, please? Thanks.
Thanks, Pip, for the introduction, and thank you, officers, for a very detailed report. There's lots to chew over. I had two kind of specific questions, maybe there for Marie, maybe there for Pip. One of which is residents in our high-rise blocks are obviously aware of some of the safety concerns and engagement that we've regularly had with them, both with the plan work that we've had at Windsor House and the more recent compliance work, which is been at Margaret Court. It strikes me in reading both of the narratives that the kind of building services regulator seems in some ways to kind of be a pinch point in the system, so to speak. You know, and I know that very early on there was some LGA work that was basically saying about 800 or so high-rise projects from other local authorities were currently stalled at this point. So I was basically, I was looking for your reflection on how we're engaging with them and whether that engagement is getting any easier, because obviously those people who are in those homes are still wanting to see it, but we can't proceed until we sign off. And then secondly was with just specific requests to the SureServe compliance contract and the emergency repairs on time. So we're not hitting the target, and it's good to see that contract management is in place. Do we have a kind of fallback target on those emergency projects as well? So that if they're not done next day, for example, do we know how many of them are done in 2 days, for example, so that we can be confident that the 50 odd additional things that we need to deliver in target on time in order to hit that target are not being pushed back too far?
Thank you.
Yeah, please go. Please go ahead. That's really good.
Thanks. So, high rise and engagement with the building safety regulator, challenging, yes. We've raised it with the social housing regulator during our inspection, and we've also raised it with another branch of the building safety regulator, who we worked with on the building safety case at Elizabeth Court. They have both undertaken to work on our behalf with the building safety regulator to push forward the work at Windsor House, but unfortunately at this point we've not had any progress on that. We're trying our very best. We've explained to them the challenges we've got with Windsor House and how it's impacting on the tenants, and you know, the fact that it's been going on for a long time. But at this stage, I'm afraid I can't give any update because we've had nothing back from them. So we are trying our very best. But we know, as you have said, that they have a backlog. They appear to not have enough qualified surveyors within their team to be able to manage the amount of work that they're calling in. SureServe, in terms of the repairs and also in terms of performance generally, we've had some issues with SureServe. I think that's been highlighted recently with call centre response times and dealing with emergency repairs. We do have robust contract management in place, and we've been working very closely with them over the last week or so to sort of up that and to make sure that we are now getting daily reports of those emergency repairs that are not being done on time, so that we can pick them up with them straight away and look at what measures they are putting in place to ensure that they get done. Our aim is to get them done as quickly as possible, particularly in this weather where people are without heating. So again, we are picking that up on a daily basis. We have our clerk of works, we have our case team monitoring those work in progress sheets that come through regularly to look at that and pick up where they're not meeting their targets. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that. I was, it's probably kind of half related to it in many senses, but a little bit concerned about the capital spend, which is an ongoing thing for many years of my memory. We've got, you know, around about 9 million to spend on capital work. We've spent just over 1 million. You know, we're clearly not going to spend 9 million this year. I mean, that's be absolutely blatantly obvious about that. I'm just kind of working through, I know we have a problem with contracts sometimes, with delivery, with all sorts of things. So if you can update us where we are and why we're so far behind on the spend and how we can get ourselves ahead of the game so that by the end of next year, we've actually spent our total amount of budget or very much more online than what we are at the moment.
Chair. So at this current stage in the budget, there is a lot of work going on, but the invoices have not come in. So it will show what looks like a very low spend, but we will definitely be a lot further down the line once we come to year end. We do dynamically assess the work that we're doing, and we have recently diverted some of our capital that we know we're not going to spend to quite a large roofing project at Godwin Road, and we've increased and added in more kitchens and bathrooms to the progress to the plan. So we do look to top up when we can. We will also look to increase the amount of budget that we have for aids and adaptations once we know that we've got that spare capital. There are a couple of large amounts in there that we don't think we're going to spend, which is the Windsor House Fire Safety Works. We put a large amount in for council's match funding for the warm homes. That initial figure of 3,750,000 was based on our original bid. We didn't get as much in our bid as we expected, but we committed to continuing to match fund. But we know that we won't spend all of that in year one. That more of that will come in years 2 or 3. So again, we would need to adjust the budget in quarters 3 and 4 to reflect that once we have better information about where we are with what those retrofit works are going to cost us. But yes, very aware that spend isn't where you might like to see it now, but I'm confident that we will be much further down the road once we come back for the end of year.
Yeah, go ahead, Marie. Thank you for that, Alexis.
Thank you, Chair. And just to add to that, obviously the stock condition surveys are absolutely crucial to getting an understanding of the needs of our homes and to be able to plan work better. So the aim is the stock condition surveys will be completed middle of the year next year. And obviously later on the agenda, you've got the asset management strategy for consideration. That sets out the principles for spend in future years. And once we've got that stock condition data, plus all the other data from various sources and surveys that we've done, then actually it will mean that in future years, it will be a more accurate and planned approach to investment in assets.
Yeah, that's helpful. And also it's good to actually start to see that what we've been aiming for a long time, that kind of joined up thinking all the way through the council, which is incredible, and that's where we want to be. And the more we do that, the better it is. I think the way I would see it is it's when we've got the money to do the work that we need to bring the stock up to the quality we need to do. Really, the problem with us is getting it delivered, getting that repairs underway. So, I think it's never been shy of ramping up the work to meet the need that we know is there, don't we? So I think that's something we would all support and move forward on. So have the confidence to do that and start getting the repairs done as quickly as we possibly can when we identify them as needed. And of course, AWEB's law and what have you is going to affect that as well, isn't it? That we haven't got time to muck about. We just got to get on with it. So that's fine. Mike.
Thank you, Chair. On that point, if I might just take you forward to the next agenda item as well, and I'll deal with it when we get there as well. But it does say there we are expecting to spend 9.73 million out of the 10 million budget this year out of the HRA capital. So hopefully that gives you some confidence that the money will be spent.
Excellent news, Mike, and thanks for that, bringing that one forward. That's really good. Thanks for that. Charlotte.
Thank you, Chair. Just looking at the ASB element of the report, and with recent casework in my mind, I just wanted to check that hate crime would include those crimes against people with disability, and that includes, as far as for our definition, learning disability and the various manifestations of such. And we don't include at the moment, do we? I suppose this is the question, or do we include crimes or harassment against women, so misogyny or misanthropy as a hate crime under our own definition, or are we using UK standard? Thank you.
Yeah, please answer. Thank you.
Hi, yeah, so we are just using the standard of the hate crime. As far as I know, and I'll double check, I was just checking the other criteria that we've got on here in terms of, I'm assuming you're referencing kind of domestic abuse within that, or not, no, just against women generally. Yeah, it's just a normal term there, but I can get a clarification on exactly what's included for you and send that over. Yeah, no problem, thank you.
Connie.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for a very comprehensive report. I've just got just a few things. I think sort of breaking down antisocial behaviour by the ward is very useful and whatever. I noticed that the largest is noise. Just wondered, do we have a sense of, is that people playing music loudly in their gardens while they're having a barbecue on a summer night? Or is it sort of someone turning on their, I was going to say record player then, turning on their hi-fi. Get with it, Connie. Turning on their music and then going out for the evening. And then going out for the evening to deliberately wind up the neighbours. Have you got any idea whether it's sort of that kind of noise that one gets wherever, or people deliberately being pains in the backside to their neighbours? Just wondered about that one. If we don't know, we don't know.
Please answer straight back. That's obviously Karen.
Thanks. Yeah, so it will have to meet the threshold for antisocial behaviour. So if it's just a bit of low-level noise, or someone putting the telly on or things like that, that won't class into the ASB category. So it has to actually be a nuisance behaviour. So it needs to be someone that is either deliberately or there's intention behind what it is that they're doing that's causing their nuisance to them. It can't just be general household noises.
And do we track certain persistent offenders?
Are you referring to if we've got people that come back and offend? I can double check the statistics on that. I'm not sure how much is recorded, but I can certainly have a look and see if we can feed back to you on that.
Thank you. It's just that I'm very aware again of casework and how sometimes individual people have complained, and then it's until you sit down and you tie it all together, you find it's sort of, the 0.1% of the tenant causing the problem. The other thing that I wanted to pick up on is overflowing bin stores, because that impinges very much on the enforcement, because we do get lots of problems about fly tipping. And I can say with absolute certainty that if somebody is cruising past with an illegal supply, shall we say, of things that they've picked up from elsewhere, if they see something that's overflowing, it's like a magnet, and that they'll offload them. So are we on the ball with overflowing bin stores in our properties, is my question.
It's something that I can have a look into and see what we're doing. Obviously, if we notice the bins, the neighbourhood managers are out on the estates, and if they notice that, it'll be reported back and dealt with as soon as we can. And obviously, if there is fly tipping, that'll be reported back. And we did recently have a case that we did take through court for fly tipping within the council services.
Jolly,
So
always,
we do
always
try and
pleased to hear
measure.
that, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Pip, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, so not specifically to do with bin stores, Connie, but the later item that we've got about garage lets and management, because I'll say it now, I'll say it again later, that we all know, I think, as ward councillors, that there are areas of garages on our estates where it's prone to fly tipping, antisocial behaviour, and that part of the item that will come up later about having a more robust garage management strategy, in part is designed exactly to create more confidence in communities that we actually care as an administration about the state of our estates, and that by being more robust in how we manage the garages, we should see a diminution in antisocial behaviour and fly tipping there as well. Thank you.
And just finally, sorry, just to say, I'm really pleased to see that the downward trend on damp and condensation, because that is a problem, a health problem for asthmatics and so forth. So good on that.
Do you want to come back on that, Marie? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nolan. Just to follow up on the bin store thing as well, the team are actually doing block inspections. So the neighbourhood managers are responsible for doing block inspections. As part of that, they will pick up bin store issues. And with the block inspections, the sites where there is a greater risk, where there are more compliance issues, where there is a greater problem, they will be visiting more often at those sites to sort it out. And then obviously if other sites become a problem, they swap them around. So it's about having eyes and ears on the ground. It's about making sure that the neighbourhood manager's doing those inspections, but more importantly, working with the tenants who live there to identify the problem and find a resolution. And if we find that there's an issue with the design of the bin stores and how they're set up, then Alexis's team, as part of the planned works, would look at redesigning the bin stores to make them work better for the tenants there.
That's really encouraging now, actually, because that's getting the root and branch to the problems again, which is what we try to do as the administration as much as we possibly can. Alex.
Thank you. And again, thank you for this report. And also, thank you, Councillor Hazelton. I will be stealing that pig analogy for future KPI discussions, not weigh the pig, but make the pig fatter. And actually, that's pertinent, I think, to the area that caught my eye, which was the complaints where the pig has got fatter. No, that's not right, is it? I'll stop. Maybe I won't steal that analogy. We're getting more complaints, but we seem to be resolving them more effectively, which is a good thing if we obviously have a look from the point of view of, I do take the note in the report that it says we're not sure if that's overall dissatisfaction with the service or that we've made the complaint process easier or a little bit of both. But to me, I think it is interesting that despite the fact we seem to have had a lot more complaints, that those resolutions are going up. And I just wonder if you sort of fill a bit around that, but it does feel to me as though that is actually achieving what we've set out to achieve, which is more people are speaking to us and we're resolving those issues.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex. Over to you, Pip.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. So just as compliance is reported to me weekly, I get the weekly data on performance with stage 1 and stage 2 complaint resolution. We look at it in detail in a monthly meeting, but I can see the weekly trends. I'm confident that management and officers are on top of it. We look at which areas are creating the most complaints, and training and targeting resources can be diverted appropriately, even down to which officer is leading on which complaints, so that, for example, if an officer is off for extended leave for any reason, complaints don't sit in their inbox and they can be reassigned. So there's a much more kind of proactive gripping of the issue. And yes, sometimes an increase in complaints is that people feel more confident about complaining, that we're asking for feedback. Doesn't necessarily, I'm sorry about that. I think that holds true across a number of areas, that when people become more aware and more confident in getting a response to their complaint, they do actually raise it. And I think there has been training as well about categorisation of feedback and complaints. So, but yes, we're seeing an improvement in response times, and also I think there are occasions when that we hadn't in the past been responding in this way, but it can be legitimate to get back to the complainant, and because it will take longer to investigate and to get a legitimate extension for the response times. And that's actually good for the complainant as well, because rather than they've made the complaint and then they don't hear anything, officers are now being encouraged to pick up the phone, speak to the tenant, say, we are looking into it, we're sorry that you've had this, we will be getting back to you. So I think that as well is it's all, there's a whole suite of measures basically designed to improve not just timeliness and performance, but actual outcomes, so that tenants are more satisfied, and then ultimately, obviously, driving down the number of occasions when people need to make complaints. Thank you.
Thanks. That's really encouraging news, and that's good to hear. It's fine. Is there any other comments on that? If not, we can note that report now. I really appreciate all of those comments as well. Are we all happy with that, officers? Just do all noted anything? But okay, in that case, we're if you're happy with that by general assent, we can note that as go forward. Okay. I think this is a report to note as well, isn't it? Actually, thinking that. Yeah. Yep, this is just to note as well. This is next one is the Revenue and Capital Q2 Budget Monitoring Forecast Report. And again, similar to what I asked Pip, I'll let Mike take this one. And again, we can definitely pull on the join up thinking with this part of it as well. So fabulous. Okay, go for it, Mike. Take it through, and we'll move from there onwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Another report for noting. A budget is much like a recipe for a Christmas pudding. Making up the recipe is the easy part, but following that recipe throughout the year is essential. And then the proof is, of course, in the pudding at the end of the day. And this budget is indeed a pudding with more than one hidden sixpence in it. So I am delighted. I'm delighted to share with you the Q2 budget monitoring update for 25-26. As always, it's the halfway point in the year, and I want to share with you not just the numbers, but the positive story that they tell about this council's resilience, adaptability, and its commitment to the residents of this district. So the headline position is the general fund currently forecasts an overspend of £306,000. It's not unusual to see to be forecasting a modest overspend at this stage of the year. And whilst that sounds challenging, we have clear plans to manage it. We're actively identifying savings and efficiencies, and where necessary, we will use any reserve strategically to smooth the impact, which is exactly why we have a budget stabilisation reserve to protect our services and maintain stability at any times of pressure. Full details of all the variances are in the report, and if there are any questions, either I or Nikki will be able to help with those. As we've already mentioned in the housing report, there's good news here on housing. The HRA is performing well, and we are projecting a transfer to reserves of nearly 6 million due to changes in the accounting treatment of finance costs that we've previously talked about at other meetings. This strengthens our ability to invest in housing improvements, safety and new homes for our residents in the coming year. It carefully reflects the planning and the dedication of the team to deliver value for tenants whilst safeguarding the long-term sustainability of the HRA. It is recommended that the HRA revenue budget is realigned ahead of the third quarter monitoring report to reflect changes in the accounting treatment of loan, principal repayments and other finance variances. On capital, our capital programme is progressing strongly. The general capital fund shows that there's no significant overspends at this stage. And on housing, as I mentioned earlier, we're forecasting spending 9.7 million against a £10 million budget. Only some modest underspends and some slippage planned for the next year. So these figures represent real improvements on things like roofing projects, enhancements to building safety, and upgrades to make homes warmer, safer, and more energy efficient. Every pound we spend here translates to better living conditions and stronger communities. On our strategic priorities, we're not just managing the day-to-day finances, we're planning for the future. We're reallocating any overspends to priority areas, reducing borrowing costs and aligning budgets with emerging needs. And this flexibility is important as we navigate the economic uncertainty while still focusing on long-term sustainability. Our approach ensures that this district remains a district that delivers value and opportunity for all. So finally, there's a sort of a message of confidence here. There are some challenges, and there always will be, but the story behind these numbers is one of resilience and progress. A firm control of the finances enables our hard-working staff to deliver for residents. We're investing where it matters most, protecting essential services and building financial strength for the future. I want to thank all officers and Cabinet colleagues for their hard work on this budget and monitoring it throughout the year. And together we are ensuring that Canterbury continues to thrive even in demanding financial climate. So in summary, we're managing resources responsibly, we are investing in our homes and communities, and we are building reserves to reduce risk. It's a positive outlook and reflects the values that we all share: stability, sustainability and service to our residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Mike. Absolutely endorse that 100%. I think we all breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief when the budget is stacking up and going well. No complacency by any of us, but that's good to know that. Anyone got any comments to make on that? Alex, go ahead.
Just wanted to say, I mean, in terms of the difficult times you talk about, I mean, it's very easy to look at that and go, oh, we're in difficult times and we're in, you know, everybody's, to turn a budget performance even at this stage out, when you look at some of the other figures that are flying around in other parts of the country, I think is no mean feat. And obviously looking at some of the larger issues within here that we're dealing with in year, although it is a significant amount of money when compared to the other sums we're talking about, it isn't a particularly significant amount of money. And I'm confident that we can deal with those issues as we go forward. And I think, although obviously you'd always love to be presenting everything as a wonderful rosy point at this period, I think having seen a few of these budget reports over the years and been at this stage of the year, this is significantly better than a lot I've seen in the past and significantly better than a lot that we see in other parts of the country. So I think keep up the good work, and I look forward to even better news at the end of the year.
Yeah, totally endorse that. Is everyone happy with that? Because I think we can just note that report, can't we, by general assent, and we're happy with that. Thank you for that. We're now on to item 9, which is the item where we're going to be looking through the outcome of that motion to council, the Wilton condition we've called it, pages 74 to 81 on the agenda. We've got 2 speakers, as we noted earlier, and the first speaker, I believe, is Councillor Heaver. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for, giving me the opportunity to speak to Cabinet this evening on behalf of the Green Group on a subject I feel very passionately about, and many of the residents of my ward feel very passionately about. The unanimously passed resolutions on the 30th of October at full council offered us all a golden opportunity. It was a proven and legally tested tool to protect this district and its residents from the continuing negative impact of sewage pollution. All that was asked was a report on its viability for implementation in this district. It was a gift, to use another Christmas analogy, that only needed to be unwrapped. While this report that you're considering this evening may be many things, unfortunately it's not a rigorous analysis of the viability of this proven Wealden, so-called Wealden planning condition. Wealden Borough Council told me that no one from Canterbury City Council has even made any attempt to contact them for any detailed input or advice. Unfortunately, they also confirmed that the information contained in Canterbury's report about the Wealden condition is inaccurate. While the NPPF calls for agreement on planning conditions to be sought with developers, I don't think it's true, or it's slightly misleading to imply, as this report does, that agreement must be obtained with developers, because if it was, that would mean developers had a right of veto over anything that a local planning authority presented. And with regard to the legalities, the Wealden condition is both legally sound and tested at appeal. Of course, it would be unlawful, or at least unconstitutional, and probably pretty silly for a council or a cabinet to start imposing planning conditions on individual applications or telling planning officers or planning committee what to do. But the motion never asked for that and never suggested that. Why did the report not consider the viability of councils perhaps requesting or urging or advising or encouraging planning officers to investigate foul water treatment capacity for large-scale planning applications, with a view perhaps to implementing suitable planning conditions where appropriate? whereas the examination of the viability of it being integrated into the draft local plan. Even worse, at times the report even seems to imply that there isn't a problem at all because Southern Water have not reported any problems with wastewater treatment capacity. Just to remind the Cabinet, Swellcliffe number 1, that's one outfall in one sewage treatment works in one town, spills about 100 times per year, according to Southern Water. Last month, November 2025, it spilled on the 23rd, on the 19th, on the 14th, on the 10th, on the 2nd and the 1st. Typically, this is between 3 and 6 hours at about 205 litres per second. That's 50-metre Olympic-sized swimming pools full of human waste every 2 hours and 45 minutes. At the new Seasalter Meadows 220 home development in Seasalter, carpets are currently being fitted out in the new show homes ready for marketing. Unfortunately, there is still no adequate sewage connection for the show home toilets. Unless we all do something, this is the reality of sustainable housing development in this district. To approve the construction of more housing development with no attempt to impose sensible planning conditions that address wastewater treatment is not just washing our hands of sewage, it's also contributing to the problem that so many residents are completely fed up with. In our view, to accept this report's recommendation, to wait passively for an update from Southern Water is unfortunately an abdication of this council's responsibility to local residents and a betrayal of the content and the spirit of the resolutions passed unanimously on 30th of October. Please do not accept it, and please could you look at it again.
Thank you. Councillor Old?
Thank you. I'm not speaking on behalf of any group. I suppose I'm speaking on behalf of myself and local residents. Thank you, Chair. You set a challenge in a press release where you said, we need to find effective ways to hold the feet of the water companies to the fire and force them to lift their game. Well, we've accepted that challenge and we offer a partial solution in this motion. This is directed not just at the water companies, but also brings in the developers themselves. And I have 2 points to make in relation to this report. First of all, we all know of circumstances where water companies and developers are falling short in meeting their responsibilities. We could talk about particular examples, but as one of them is potentially subject of an inquiry, perhaps best not to go into the detail. But we know of examples where currently a lack of capacity means that sewage is tankered from existing homes and sewage is discharged into rivers and onto our coast. So it's extraordinary to read in the report, as Councillor Heaver has pointed out, page 79, paragraph 2 from memory. There are no circumstances in the district whereby SWS has submitted comments on planning applications indicating capacity is not available for development. That can't be allowed to stand on its own. It needs qualification and clarification. Are there no circumstances because it's never happened? Are there no circumstances because SWS cannot refuse? Or are there no circumstances because they've not been reported? We need to have clarification and qualification on that point. The second issue is that the report refers to Grampian conditions, as indeed so did I when I spoke in support of the motion. It then goes on to imply that the Wealden condition is a variety of a Grampian condition, but that misses the point. The Wealden condition is much more proactive than a Grampian condition. While a typical Grampian condition may say no development until the water company has upgraded treatment works, the Wealden condition goes much further and places the onus not on a third party, but on the developer to actively secure or potentially to deliver the improvement required. And it's disappointing that this important distinction has been missed or overlooked. It's recognised, of course, that the Council cannot give direction to the Planning Committee. That would fetter its decision-making, and we quite understand that. However, the Council can and should acknowledge that these Wealden conditions are an important tool in the armamentarium that might enable us to meet our obligations under the MPPF to prevent pollution, and it would also assist the leader in his challenge that this is a tool that, when applied appropriately, will help deal with pollution of our rivers and our coasts. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay. Right. I'll make a few comments before we move that, because I think we need to get this debate back on track. I think we've had a little bit of drift here. When this comes to council, I actually welcome the opportunity that we had to look at this and to listen to the comments, to work through probably why it was being said and why it was coming to council. But we are operating as a council, separate from this motion for a moment, in the context as a local planning authority that is in presumption due to the lack of a 5-year housing supply, situation created by a myriad of issues, not least nutrient neutrality and numerous judicial reviews. This new administration, the part that we're of, has from the very start taken a balanced and pragmatic approach to try to kickstart development and get ourselves out of presumption, including interim solutions on nutrient neutrality, that deals with issues of polluting the rivers and blighting development of brownfield sites. Ironically, something opposed very vocally by the Green Party at every opportunity. So thankfully, housing is continuing to be built and applications passed to support future growth of housing of all tenures, including affordable and social housing, despite many local difficulties. And of course, the Green Party are very much in favour of social housing, so I understand. So this motion was brought to council and communicated to residents, as it is almost tonight, as being the solution to pollution in the sea and the rivers. And that's the Green Party saying this is all you need to do. Those concerns should reflect the wisdom of suggesting that outcome. You should all consider that wisdom if you are putting this forward, of suggesting that outcome based on something that is legally impossible and something a little due diligence would have uncovered as being that. So also the real reason maybe of conflating the single site condition, which is the Wealden condition, to a policy change that would likely in many ways be found wanting at appeal, and the implications that holds the council to that is in presumption as well. I'm looking at this in a pragmatic and open-minded view. However, the report prepared by officers has been able to clarify the legal position, which I will read out shortly. I would also draw attention to the important steps we have made that are an actual pragmatic and legal and deliverable. These measures will not stop well-designed developments with appropriate infrastructure from being delivered. Permission granted offering future homes for families to move into as a start in their life or to move up to as their family circumstances change. So firstly, as was requested, I've written to the Secretary of State to request the amendment to 197 of the Water and Infrastructure Bill. An amendment, is, if accepted, should be applied to England now and will greatly improve the engagement with water companies, and we would welcome that. That's national planning policy. we are actively engaged with Southern Water Services regarding updates to environmental measures contained in their 25 to 2030 or 25 to 2030 asset management plan, again mentioned by the speakers tonight. Cabinet will be updated frequently on that as soon as possible, and important updates will be communicated to all councillors for information. And I'd like to make sure that we would do that at least quarterly and sooner if further information becomes available. And perhaps more important than all of this is the draft Regulation 19 local plan is due at Cabinet in March next year. That document includes the infrastructure development plan. This section faces squarely the improvements needed to critical infrastructure and very much includes the water companies in that. That is very welcome addition as a strong, well-evidenced, wide-ranging local plan addressing the qualitative and quantitative aspects of future development is a firm foundation for developments of the future. So just to note then, before we start, I'll move back to my colleagues on Cabinet for their comments on this as well. So full council and the planning, just to note that the full council and the local planning authority are in law two different authorities. Full council cannot direct the local planning authority to impose blanket conditions on individual planning applications. Full council is responsible for the local plan, policies within the local plan, which will ultimately determine what, if any, conditions are applied to planning applications and must be consistent with the National Planning Policy Framework, the NPPF, and you will see reference to that in the report which you've all read, of course. While it is not possible to apply the wording condition as a blanket policy, the wording or similar can be utilised on a case-by-case basis where the circumstances require such a workaround and remains an option open to local planning authorities to consider. And I will say I'm very happy with that. If our local planning authority consider it appropriate, it's able to be offered under the conditions, still complying with those conditions in reference to NPPF, then that is okay with us. So we need to resolve this matter. So I would actually seek to have a seconder to agree to receive regular updates from Southern Water about the implementation of the environment measures contained in 2025 to 2030 asset management plan. That's what we need to resolve, and obviously, but we need to talk about the reason why we're doing that. So could I seek a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Pip. It's appreciated. With that comment out of the way, I will ask other Cabinet members to speak. Who wants to go first? Anyone? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, officers, for the report. Obviously, it's a very complex matter. Obviously, this has given me many sleepless nights. One of the speakers, and thank you both of you for your speeches, obviously where I directly live, unfortunately, the coast doesn't have a monopoly on the water system. We've got a very vast river network in our area, which is actually quite heavily polluted as well. I think the biggest statement when I was reading through everything, and I've seen things online, is it would be great to have a silver bullet. It would be great to have a motion where we could tell a separate part of our council, which is run as a separate legal process, to put conditions in and stop. Residents would love it. We'd stop building houses left, right and centre that upset people, and it is a very divisive matter. The difficulty is it is a top-down system, and unfortunately we have to make sure we are meeting that legal process. And although there is an element that it's been tested, this scenario, I think it's really important, you touched on it, Chair, that we relay to the Planning Committee via the Head of Planning, via the Chair of Planning, to engage with members of the committee to be aware of that process. And I think that's where our responsibility ends, really fundamentally. They have to take the onus on them to look at the legal framework, make a statement. If someone wants to put a condition forward and it holds up, then great. And I think it's not something we can get involved with directly. We said that on the night of full council, and I think we have to reiterate that today. It's a controversial topic, and I fully agree with vast sections of what's said. No one in disagreement that throwing poo into the sea is a good thing. No one could possibly agree that's a good thing. But unfortunately, sometimes we have big issues that we can't solve here, and we can only do the best we can. You obviously noted, you wrote to the government about the condition that would be really important. So I think there are things potentially we can do behind the scenes, working with planning and with training, but I think in terms of anything else, we are fairly limited, unfortunately. Thank you.
I was just conscious actually looking at, do you want to come back in here, Andrew, before just settle and sum up at the end? It's okay. No, that's absolutely fine. It was okay. And just catch it up. Who's next? Anyone? Charlotte next, then, please. Then Connie to follow.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the report, and thank you very much to our two speakers. And obviously, we agree with an awful lot of the sentiment that's been expressed by the speakers and by all our residents, whether they're affected by river or sea sewage spills. It is tragic, and we live there, and we have to endure it. And at the moment, we don't have, because of the limited powers that we have, all the tools we wish to have to take stronger action. We all wish we could do more. And when we first had that debate at full council, you may remember I was pretty fervent that I felt it was illegal for full council to tell the LPA what to do. And the report does back up that that is the case. They are two separate legal entities, as our speakers both acknowledged. But where I'm getting a little foggy is that speakers came today and acknowledged two separate legal entities, perhaps asked for some clarification on the work done in producing the report, and I'm happy for us to debate or just seek the clarification on whether those outreaches were made to Wealdon Council. I would be interested. But for a Facebook video was released only 2 days ago, which said, and this is from Councillor Heaver over there who just spoke here, that he was coming to council because we have a brilliant opportunity to today introduce a policy which will stop developers building new homes unless there's proper sewage treatment capacity. And I quoted that verbatim. Well, that's not what the report asked us to do. You're misselling what we've been asked to do to a public, and that's unfair. We haven't been asked to introduce a policy. We can't do that. We are the cabinet. We are, in a greater sense, the full council. We are not the LPA. And I think it's really, really cruel to sell to a Whitstable public that we are able to do something we can't. For my friends and my family and my residents that live in Whitstable, to do that is, I think, a political cruelty. It's to dangle an option in front of people who are desperate for options that we cannot enforce. I would love to see Grampian or Grampian plus conditions imposed by the LPA on developments where sewage capacity is inadequate. Bring it on. Do it. The Green Party, we, others, already have members sitting on the local planning authority. You, us, we haven't done it yet. No one has. So do it. This is not the fora. This is the wrong place. And to say so to a public is greatly and posturizingly unfair. Thank you.
Connie?
Thank you. Just a few points. First of all, I want to thank you, Leader, for writing to the Secretary of State. It was something that we asked you to do, and you did it. I'd also like to remind people that this is not a new particular problem, and I can remember, Councillor Baldock, that you went up to number 10 Downing Street with other leaders to talk through this very problem. We have not been sitting on our bum doing nothing. But one thing that we do not do is to make false promises to our residents. And I'd like to remind everybody in this room that Lord Nolan established the 7 principles of public life, one of which was honesty. And as Councillor Cornell has just said, it is dishonest to promise something in a video to residents and then turn up and say something different. And as Councillor Castle has already said, nobody in their right mind would condone poo in our seas or in our rivers, although actually, to be fair, in our rivers, it's the runoff of nutrients from farmers and so forth. But I am quite cross that the accusation is that we have been doing nothing when I know we have been doing as much as we possibly can and more within the limits. But has already been said, we are in presumption, not for our own fault in many ways, and the law says that we must not bring undue pressure onto our planning committee because they need to have the legal freedom, and they must have the legal freedom, and I will defend that freedom. Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. Totally agree with that and what Charlotte said. Chris is next, I think. Thank you.
I'm very aware that in the next 6 months, I think the political rhetoric around local plan is going to ramp itself up. And I think that situations like this are really difficult because people on the doorstep want a simple answer, and it's a complicated problem. I think as kind of Councillor Old most clearly articulated, you know, this is a partial solution to a problem. It's not a silver bullet. But what kind of strikes me, I mean, in reading some of this, to be honest, I've read some of the Green Party's website this week and some of the response to the local consultation. To be honest, some of the rhetoric which was used, I was really shocked by. You know, the Green Party's official position is to see a world without borders, and yet locally, the Green Party is describing our local plan as a problem of imported people. I mean, it's suggesting that migration, economic or social, is something that nobody wants in CCC. In short, we're all full up. Go home. It's deliberately using the language of war. It described our policy as an assault, an irreversible attack, an invasion. It says not a single inch of land is something that should be lost. According to them, there's no need for a single home to be approved in the next 23 years. And it says that nearly 56,000 people will be imported to fill these luxury homes. It is, it says, an assault from Londoners on our countryside. That's not language I'd use. I think words matter. This is going beyond DFL tropes to infer that anyone who moves into this area doesn't have any value, that they don't have any social or economic merit, that they don't bring jobs to our area, that they can't care for our elderly, they can't share experiences or enrich our society. This idea of an imported people is kind of anti-refugee, anti-European, anti-internationalist, but it's also anti-British. You know, surely it's the birthright of anybody, whether they're born in London or Liverpool or Louth, to move within their country to choose to live where they want, in the same way that I could, in the same way that I have. So I think I'm happy to accept this report, and I do think, and thank colleagues for some of their kind of response today, because it's certainly more measured in its choice of language. I think the Stuart's and Councillor Heaver's comments about what this report could have done were essentially not what the report was asked to do. But some of the other points that he's talked about, conditions, about when local developers speak planning, are all very sensible. And the fact that they're not in this report, I don't think it means that they won't be in the final Reg 19. I think, as Connie's intimated here, we haven't been sitting on our hands, and I would expect our Reg 19 to go further than our Reg 18 consultation on sewage, the indication of that being that we've asked for comments here. I think the report here doesn't say that the wielding condition is illegal. It says it is legal. It just says it's unproven. And if it was a silver bullet, everybody would be doing it. How you collect and are able to provide that information to serve a local test, which means that we don't spend taxpayers' money fighting legal battles which we're never going to win, is the most important thing here. And so I welcome the fact that we've managed to clarify a few things to do with the wielding condition here. And I hope, as Alan's intimated in the infrastructure development plan, we'll see strengthening of that. But I think we need to be clear that there are broader issues at work here. We need to be honest about what we can and we can't do. And I'm really hopeful that next year, when we can have some greater clarity in the Reg 19, we can show what we can.
Thanks for that, Chris. That's a good summary point where we all are. I mean, as has been said before, I mean, none of us welcome sewage pollution, but when all the rest of it goes with it, we've been working hard to take some pragmatic and sensible decisions over the last 2 years to carry on where we can with building, and others just stand block spare in the way of that in every opportunity. We have to be sensible about this and get on with our job, and just make some good decisions. I'm going to ask Andrew if there's anything you wanted to add about, especially about the policy documents that are to come within Reg 19. That's some very overviews, so that'd be useful perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, just on that, as you say, we've got the Regulation 19 version of the local plan coming through to Cabinet in just a few months' time. There's a huge amount of feedback we've had on this issue that we consulted on recently, and absolutely the intention is to strengthen that to make sure there's a really robust approach that can be used ultimately on a case-by-case basis by planning committee, and crucially as part of that to really up the ante in terms of getting that early engagement through the planning process, not all leaving it to the end of the decision making, so there's more information, more clarity for everyone about the timing and the nature of improvements as they come through.
Thanks for that, and hence the joined up thinking between that and that regulation, or the reference to 197 in the House of Lords bill, which helps all of those things all the way through, doesn't it, and allow us to deliver on that. Again, a piece of joined up thinking rather than political rhetoric just to mislead people. This is the truth, the straight truth. This is what we're going to be doing. We can do it. It's legally able to be done, and ultimately we'll come up with some policies that actually work for this district and are deliverable and are legal, and come up with the housing numbers that we're required to build. It's tough. Who said it was easy? I'm up for it. We need homes. We will build homes, and we will build homes that are connected to proper sewage systems, and they were going forward as well. So thank you for that. We've got this proposed and seconded. Is there anyone with comments that want to make on this at all? Anyone? If not, we do need to take a vote on this, don't we? So a vote for is to resolve to agree to receive regular updates from Southern Water, and I will seek some actually clarity from the team, and we get some dates in our diary, I think, when we can on that. But for now, we don't know those dates, but we will get some feedback from Southern Water with those dates. So thank you for that.
That's carried unanimously, Chair, with 8 votes.
Thank you. I'll let the members of the public leave if they want to, rather than disrupt the meeting. Thank you. Okay. Thanks for that, team. Okay, item 10 now. That's the approval of Partnership 1 business plan. Right. Okay. So, you need to vote on this too, don't we? Yeah.
It's a recommendation.
Okay. So just a bit of clarity on this one. We will need to vote, so we'll be seeking a seconder in a moment. And that report to what I'm going to resolve is that Cabinet recommendation, whichever we decide in a moment or two, will go to the Partnership 1 board, and that's what we're going to vote on. So could I actually have a seconder at this point just to do that? Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Thank you. Just a couple of points. You've all had a chance to look at that document. It's their first year document. And I can remember we commented and spoke about that between East Kent Services Committee in October, when that document was explored quite thoroughly by Kent leaders involved and the officers as well. And it's a first year document that will evolve, I'm sure. but it's a good one to start. The Companies Advisory Committee looked at it on the 4th of December and they voted unanimously to recommend it to Cabinet. Happy to take any comments on that at all. As Nikki, do you want to say a few words? Just a few bits and pieces of your thoughts on that and how it's going to help you?
Thank you, Chair. I can just give a bit of an update from the Companies Advisory Committee, just because the minutes aren't out there yet. The business plan and the corporate health report were presented. Mark Emery, the Chief Exec of Partnership One, presented their plan and the 6 goals for the first year, which is summarised on page 111 of this report. The main questions that were raised at the committee were around some of the KPIs, including the speed and accuracy of claims process in resolving those claims. There was also discussion about the impact of the KCC incentives reduction on KPIs. However, it's just a little bit too early at this point to quantify that impact, but they are continually monitoring that. Social value initiatives and trading opportunities, which, as the company is in its infancy, are something to be developed after its first year of trading and settling in. And Partnership One is in a good position to develop things like training and consultancy schemes to external bodies. So they're optimistic on that. The IT costs were reviewed, AI was discussed, and pay levels and the structure of the organisation, with some more information requested for next time. And just to note that next year's 26-27 business plan will be going through the system earlier and going through to East Kent Services Committee meeting. There's one planned for early next calendar year, January, I believe, to approve the business plan in time for the start of the year. It's just there's a bit of a timing issue because of the start of the company for this year. So there was also a corporate health report presented, and Companies Advisory Committee were happy with that. And we also had Matthew Archer, who is the Canterbury board member, there as well, presenting that, and that report was just noted. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. I've got nothing to add to that. I think that reflects my understanding of where we are as well. So, and it's a new company with some good opportunities. I'm hopeful that it will be able to set itself well into the new unitary authorities in the future. Maybe picking up additional work or whatever, but I'm sure there's a good opportunity there for it go forward as well. So we're happy with that. Anyone got any comments to make? Okay, so it's been proposed and seconded. So we need to vote on that then, please. Thank you. So a vote for is to recommend to the board.
That's carried unanimously with 8 votes.
Okay. Right. Okay. Now we're into part B of the meeting, which is the one where there's no public participation. We haven't got anyone left now, so apart from Graham. So now we're down to one of Pip's favourite subjects, actually. I think going forward, it's going to be something we're all mega proud of, the outsourcing of the garage management. So this item 11. So I'll do what I normally do. So hand it over to Pip to do a quick introduction. If you can read out the resolution and get somebody to second it, and then we'll crack on with a bit of debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure about garages being my favourite subject. I do remember when I was at school being caught smoking behind the bike sheds, but I don't remember the
news headlines now.
I don't remember the garages being involved. But anyway, thank you. So this item is to resolve, and I'm going to read it out, that the garage management for HRA services be outsourced through a garage management company, which can be selected through the contractual framework. Do I have a seconder, please?
Seconded.
Thank you.
That's proposed and seconded. Mike seconded. Thank you.
Thank you. The reason I'm asking for agreement on the way forward for our garage management tonight is so we can make real headway in delivering a better service than we currently do. The report's already been to Overview Committee on the 6th of November, and I'm grateful to members for their comments and questions. We're all ward councillors, and I'm sure you'll all be aware of the poor condition of many of our garages, as well as the areas immediately surrounding them. When we took over the administration, the housing portfolio had more pressing priorities, so the existing ticking over approach of the previous administration in relation to our garages was continued with. Having got to grips with the highest priority matters within the HRA, I've more recently been working with officers on our garages, which are often unlet, in poor condition, create corners of estates, prone to antisocial behaviour and fly tipping, and don't bring in much revenue. The plan is to outsource, get them spruced up, and relet or disposed of. You'll see from the report that the management currently sits across a number of services, including case, locality, and facilities management, and each of these has responsibility for the delivery of more urgent landlord services, as we've seen in an earlier item this evening. If we were to deliver robust garage management in-house, we would need to invest in additional staff spread across several teams. Recruitment of staff with appropriate specialist skills may not be easy, and even then management would need to be within the existing resource, creating competing pressure on other aspects of our work. Consequently, I'm fully behind officers' recommendation to go for option 2, outsourcing to a management company. And I'm now going to pass over to Tracy Chambers, who'll tell you more about the proposal, including the finances and the contractual details. Thank you.
Thank you. So in terms of the garage management, the company themselves would actually advertise for us. They would find tenants for these garages, keeping in mind our tenants as well as private tenants. They would sign the tenants up for those units and then collect the rent for those. But what they will do is any rent collected comes directly back to Canterbury City Council, and then we just pay the management fee. For that as well, they will do minor repair works. But in terms of any larger works, so if they're doing roofs or doors on the garages, that the cost of that is covered within our capital budget. But they can do the work on those. So it's just a bit of clarity really around what that management fee covers. So they pretty much do everything on those garages, but as I say, the capital funds will come separately, which we can look to realign from some of our budgets if the decision is made today. That's what we would do in terms of the management on there. If there's any other questions on it, I'm happy to take those. Thanks.
First and then Mike, if I can, please.
Thanks, Tracy. I just had a question about how this fits in with disposals. I had an email the other day about potential disposal of some garages down King Edward Street. I'd walked there hundreds and hundreds of times, never even noticed that those garages existed towards the end. And what's clear from this report is that there are hundreds of things everywhere, not often being used. But obviously, the amount of money that we're giving out for a management fee makes sense when we have a large stock that isn't filled. If we were to be deliberately kind of seeking to reduce our stock through disposals, the kind of break-even point on that would change. So I guess my question is, if we enter any type of, I mean, we couldn't even get rid of that many garages that quickly, if you know what I mean. So the question is effectively, what breaks would exist in the contract, and how would us identifying things for disposal sit within that contract as part of the general piece?
Thank you. So the way that it would work is it's a cost per unit. So we would only pay for the units that they're managing. So what would happen is they would complete stock condition surveys on all of the garages. They'll look at what state are they in at the moment, what do we need to do with those. We'd also have a look at what price point could they get for that garage, along with what else could we do with that? Is the site fit for redevelopment? Should we be looking to dispose of it? And those options will come back to us, and then we'll be able to make a decision about, do we dispose of garages? Do we redevelop the sites? Do we redevelop the garages and make them lettable again? Some of them may just need some minor repair work, so some of those might be easy to come back into use. So once we've got those surveys back, we'll be in a better position to understand what does the stock look like. But we can put break clauses in the contract. We can also bring any garages back within a 30-day notice period. So if we decide, once they've had the garage, that actually we're going to redevelop that site, or we're going to dispose of that unit, or we want to do something else with that, then we can easily bring that back into the council's usage and do what we need to do with that. And if there's any other terms or conditions that we need to add in there, we can do that as well. But it leaves us quite flexible in being able to make decisions on what we do with those sites. Thank you.
I'll get you come in first, Marie, and then it'd be you, Mike, after that, wouldn't it? Okay, and then Connie. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. And just to supplement what Tracy said, there's already been a strategic piece of work undertaken on the garage sites. So we've assessed all the sites that we've got. We know which clusters are suitable for development. So from a decision point of view, you know, that can be done based on that piece of work that's already been undertaken.
Thanks, Marie. Mike, and then Connie. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to speak to sort of wholly endorse this. You know, we really should be making the best use of our assets, and that will give us, you know, it'd be better for our tenants, better for us as a council, and therefore better for all the residents of the district. There's I don't know if it's still on the television, but there used to be this programme on called Storage Hunters, where they would knock on a garage and some chap would shout out "boom," and you know, behind it there'd be an old pinball machine and a few other bits and pieces that would be worth a few quid. Well, it looks like someone's knocked on the garage door and found £1 million behind it potentially. So we certainly need to open those garage doors, and it's something that we haven't got the in-house facilities to deal with it. You need people who have got who are set up to deal with this. You know, we are not an organisation that can look after all of these garages, and by paying hopefully a fairly modest management a charge to an organisation, we can get a lot more income in. So it's a no-brainer to go ahead and get on with this.
Yeah, go ahead, Connie.
Well, first of all, I really welcome this. I truly do, because so much casework sort of arises from fly tipping and so forth. And I can remember, Alan, you, me, Mel, officers sitting round in Military Road, of all places, that's how long ago it was, talking about the problems of the garages then. And I know that officer time is taken up with trying to find out who owns the garages. And because housing stock is built 40s and 50s, some of them, the garages are actually too small for the modern car anyway, so they're used for other purposes. And you know, going back to Mike's point, yeah, I've some years ago got taken to a group of garages. I got a bit worried because I thought I was just buying a sideboard, but there you go. I got taken to this group of garages, and the guy was renting 2 garages, and it was stacked with what we call mid-century stuff. Yeah, so as he said to me, he couldn't get a car in here, but it's really good for him to operate his business out of. So I think actually tracking down and finding out exactly what's going on, and if somebody's running their businesses from our garages, then actually that's an opportunity to go in with the business tax or something, isn't it? Not that I'm squealing on anybody. But I do welcome this because, you know, as a ward councillor, and also enforcement is in my portfolio, and I know it's, as I've already said, it's a magnet for fly tipping. I think it's brilliant, and thank thanks to the officers that have already done the sort of I imagine it's a quick and dirty survey of sort of what's available to sell off and redevelop, because I know from past experience that officers have spent far too much time trying to track down individual people. But I think it's a very good thing to do, and I'd like to commend Pip and the officers for coming up with this suggestion. I'll certainly be voting for it, yeah.
Pip first, and then Chris, please.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the comments and support so far. I'm really mindful that councillors in Overview, both members of Overview Committee and a councillor who attended to speak at Overview, were making points about value to tenants. And just to remind Cabinet that there's a different charge for residents from, I think, tenants of our housing, of our council housing, pay a lower rent than general members of the public, and that the price that's referred to in, price changes would be subject to our annual budget setting and so on. So that would remain within the control of the council, with no doubt recommendations from the outsourced company. But I do know one member of Overview and the member of the councillor who spoke at Overview as when this item was discussed, talked about residents who find it like really good for their mental health as a kind of lifeline, like a man cave kind of type of thing. Having a place to go and kind of tinker and get on with things, and also that there are residents have also made comments that I've picked up on about not wanting to have a garage in a block, but because the block is full of fly tipping and antisocial behaviour, they're reluctant to do it. So I think, sprucing them up, for, to use a non-technical term, but once they're spruced up, I think we'll find that instead of, just being able to let one or two, if there's a block of 8, we may well find that, we don't just like let out 8, we've got a waiting list and, that kind of thing. So I'm hopeful that once this ball starts rolling, we'll really see lots of improvements, not just in the finance, but in the service that we're able to provide to individual residents and their communities as a whole. Thanks.
That sounds amazing, but yeah, that's a totally good point there. Chris.
Just a question. If we agree this today, and let's hope that we can find £1 million behind a garage door, Mike, just where then would the contract be reported on? Because obviously, if having pushed some of the advertising, there are still areas of low demand, so to speak. I guess it would be really useful to start mapping some of that out and considering if there's alternative use. Some of that might be council housing, but there are places which give them up to charities, use them as live work units, as little bicycle repair shops, that type of thing, even use them as artist studios types of thing. So we need to obviously start a process by getting a stock condition survey of these, trying to promote them, but find out but once we've identified if the interest is to do with us not advertising and more actually just where they are, how would we know? Who would we report back to that contract so we could identify if there were any trends in demand, I guess, in particular geographies? Well, Pip will know.
Yeah, do you want to come back on that, and then we're...
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we'll report back to Councillor Hazelton as our portfolio holder, but we'll also include updates in the 6-monthly performance reporting, so we'll provide that information.
I'm going to take Lee and then Charlotte to follow, please.
Sorry, I know everyone's probably a little bit talked to garage death, but if I don't make a garage joke, this is my favourite music in my car, unfortunately. Garage brunches are also my favourite thing. Brilliant report. The one question linked slightly to what Councillor Cornell said is there a set of KPIs already drafted? Like, are they expecting to make £50,000 year one, and this extra money that's 600 odd thousand after obviously the cost will be a lot lower. Is there like a timeline plotted? I think that'd be really good to see, just so everyone doesn't get their hopes up, because Mike's already suggested it. And also, yeah, I agree with Councillor Cornell. I think that was a concern I had is, you know, people are quite negative when we try to do something good with garages. They're quite, and it's interesting, Pip, you mentioned about the man cave element, or something I'd thought of where I am. But yeah, it'd be really good to see all that data, just to try and be positive about it, but not to dwell on the topic too much longer. Thank you.
Charlotte, please do.
Thank you. It's just to ask for information. We offer our tenants a discount on the garage rate. Is that geographically linked to where they live, or anywhere in the district? Obviously, there's a huge social benefit to these garages, as you say, workshop, home gyms, etc., space and development of skill. But I did wonder if that was geographically linked to the residents.
Okay, so just on the point of the tenant discount, so every tenant is entitled to one VAT-free garage, which means that they save 20% on the costs associated with it. So that's where the discount comes in. It's available to all tenants, and it's not based on any sort of area. Just so, yeah, one garage. So if you've got more than one garage, you only get one VAT-free one. But yeah, you're allowed to have one VAT-free one. And in terms of the KPIs, we will look to be putting KPIs in. What we need to understand is, what does the stock look like? We're hoping to get some in. We expect that 5% of the garages will be back in use from inspections, because some of them will be able to have minor repair works and be able to come straight back into use. But the rest of it will depend on the available capital. So if it is decided today, we can go away and have a look at the capital budget, see what's available. Then we need to understand what work needs to be done and make some decisions about how many garages we bring back into use, depending on the associated costs. So we'll be able to give a bit more detail later on, if that's okay, and we can certainly feedback if you'd like that, on where we're planning with those and how many we expect to bring back into use over what period. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Anyone else want to speak on that? No, I was just going to, I mean, she's being on Grinchy now, but do we need to regularise what somebody can use a garage for? So, you know, because I really, really, really want to see them used for, you know, small business and the gym or the, you know, whatever it might be, but that would be, yeah. Do we need to do that? I mean, do we need to make sure we're absolutely clear? Yeah, go on.
Well, I can understand that we need to make sure that there isn't any criminal activities, but that would be covered by law anyway. I don't know, I just like the idea of, you know, sort of a man cave or a workshop or a gym or an art studio, or let's find out what people want to use them for. I mean, normally I'm not the libertarian one here, am I? It's usually you. But I mean, we can't we leave it to the criminal law that if they're getting up to nefarious things, they can be prosecuted. But if we start putting, oh, you've got to do this, or, you know, it can only be used for that, then we're stifling the creativity that we know our residents have. We may not be. Maybe we shouldn't.
Just before Tracy comes back on that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually of the mind that you can do what you like as long as it's legal, you know, and a decent and legal kind of argument. But do we have contracts in place now that do say you can only park a car for argument's sake, or something like that? Is this the time that we just need to get that bit straight as well? So that's fine, really. Yeah.
Yeah, so the primary use of the garages is cars. They shouldn't really be used for things other than that. They certainly shouldn't be used for running businesses. So it's something that if you wanted to look at, we'd obviously need to take away, but there would be potentially some issues around compliance and making sure, you know, what people are storing in there that isn't going to cause a risk to other people and the area. Thanks.
See, I knew there'd be a Grinch side of that. I'll get to Mike and then Pip can finish off. That's right.
Yeah, I'm pleased to hear that, Tracy. I was getting a bit worried we were going to see all sorts of workshops and welding going on, and you know, and all of this sort of stuff. Yeah, garages should be for cars, bit of storage maybe, but you can't really operate businesses from them, in my view, because you'd need to do an individual check on each of them and check their suitability and their safety. Potential customers coming all the time and all of this. So, these are garages. Let's get the rent for them, and that's the main thing. They are not business units.
Go on, Pip.
Oh, thank you very much to the officers for clarifying that, to Alan for the question, for Mike for endorsing it, because we all know that people who have their own house with their own garage, more often than not, the garage doesn't get parked in the garage, it gets parked on the drive or in the road, and that the garage gets used for bits of storage and for fiddling about, or for driving the car into when the weather is cold for a bit of tinkering under the bonnet, that kind of thing. And I think that is the extent to which the garages could and should be used. I think there's all sorts of problems with, insurance and safety and all kinds of other things. So I think we need to make it really clear for the record that they're essentially garages and that's what their primary use should be for. Thank you.
Okay, Charlotte, go on.
But be real, that's not actually what they're going to be used for at all. Like, no one parks their car in a garage anymore. Cars are too big and the garages are all too small. So we can advertise it as such and say we're going to inspect to make sure it's only for car and a few nuts and bolts. But in reality, no one uses garages to park cars anymore. So are we marketing studios and somewhere to hang up your punching bag? Or are we marketing somewhere where we're going to inspect that you do park your car? Because I'm a little bit unclear. Are we saying something and then we're just expecting to turn a blind eye to the fact that no one uses their garages to the cars? Is that what we're doing here?
Go on, Chris. I'll comment on that and then see what Marie says.
I think it's a little irrelevant. The key thing we're going to do is we're going to advertise these for cars. My suggestion about alternative space was only if we have not succeeded in using them and letting them for the purpose for which they were originally designed. These do not have the utilities that you would need in order to do other things for them. And I think that's, the basic spec is going to limit what the use is for. So, I heartily endorse the report, and let's get on and see what the interest in the market's going to be.
Okay, Marie, go on.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there are restrictions and we've got to work within that framework, but there is an overarching garage management strategy that was signed off previously. I think that sets out what the purpose and sort of use of garages are.
Yeah, so we're having another little bit of a look at that garage strategy and just make sure that the wording's appropriate, shall we? And then Charlotte can hang the punch bag up and beat it vigorously and pay a few quid for it every month on the carriage rental. So, okay. Is there any more points on that? Do we need to vote on that? We do, don't we?
We do, yeah.
Yeah, we need to resolve that then. So, if there's no more comments too.
That's carried unanimously, Chair, with 8 votes.
Okay, so after the great garage debate, I knew that would be fun. And sorry, Pip, you feel a bit deflated over that, there. It was, don't know. Amazing. Okay, thanks all of you for that. And there's some useful stuff there. Really pleased with that. That's a good outcome we can move forward with. Okay, this one is with Pip again. Is the draft housing asset management strategy. I'm sure that's not going to be exciting as garages, but it's still got some things in it that I thought were really interesting. So If I could hand over to you for a quick introduction and a seconder, please. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, I'm not sure I can trust any of my Cabinet colleagues now. So there is a resolution which is to adopt the Housing Asset Management Strategy and support its implementation. Can I have a seconder, please?
Seconded.
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to thank officers, obviously, for creating this significant top-level framework document, which will guide the council in our management of our HRA residential and garage portfolio and general fund residential portfolio over the next 3 years. It'll direct our investment priorities and also set out how we'll deliver excellent services to our tenants, leaseholders and wider stakeholders. This report's already been taken to a tenant workshop on the 7th of October, and I thank them for their comments and support. It's also been discussed by overview on the 6th of November and recommended for adoption by us tonight. The strategy spans 25 to 28 and sets out a clear evidence-based plan for how we'll manage and invest in our housing assets to deliver real and lasting benefits for our tenants. Our housing portfolio is one of our most valuable community assets, with over 5,000 homes providing secure, affordable housing for thousands of residents. So to protect and strengthen this legacy, we need to make smart, data-driven decisions about maintaining, investing in and growing our housing stock. The strategy gives us the tools and framework to do exactly that. It's about ensuring we have accurate, up-to-date data about our homes and allows us to use that evidence to target investment where it will have the greatest impact, reduce future maintenance costs and needs by targeting our investment, making sure our homes remain safe, warm and well maintained for the tenants that call them home, support us in meeting net zero aspirations and support reductions for our declared climate emergency. And it will support us as we strive to exceed our regulatory requirements. Its goal is simple: to improve our tenants' daily lives by providing safe, high-quality, affordable homes that meet the needs of our tenants today and in the future. The key themes are described from page 150 onwards. And now I'll pass over to Alexis Jobson for more of the detail. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Alexis, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Pip. You've covered that really well. It's as Pip has said, it's a very, Councillor Hazelton, sorry, has said it's a very important key strategy that straddles every element of looking after our housing portfolio. It takes into account some of the legislative changes that have recently come into act and have had quite an impact on how we deliver our services. As you know, AWAB's law, Social Housing Regulations Act, and also we've got coming up Decent Homes too, so there are changes to that as well. We know that the data that underpins all of this is one of our key priorities that we're working on, and once we've got that data, that will inform so much of what we do in this strategy. But there is also a lot that we are already doing, and I think have already started to do in terms of some of the key objectives that are set out in that strategy. So I am pleased to say that we are well underway with a lot of the stuff we're doing, but we know we've still got a way to go, particularly on the data side, to get our plans up to speed, and give us that plan for the next 30 years. In terms of some good news that we've brought out in the report, obviously we've got the Warm Homes funding that is already giving us that target to bring a lot of our homes up to EPCC. We've set ourselves a target of 2030, but actually by 2028 we should have achieved quite a significant number of them by then, and if we can add more in, we will as well. So that's really good news for us. And yeah, I think happy to really take any questions or comments.
Thanks, Alexis. Can I just ask one quick question? Yeah, how does, we've got a housing asset strategy here, which, you know, is a great place to start. How does it compare with, say, Thanet and Dover that also have kind of large housing stock, and other councils? Is that the same sort of, have they got the same information or better? Are we on catch up or are we about there? I'm just mindful that in a unitary arrangement, we need to at least be working towards the same kind of place. And, you know, and also I'm noting that this actual version runs out in 2028, which of course is vesting year. Should it be longer than that? Maybe to bump into the next, you know, 29 or 30 perhaps, with some of the references in the text for 2030 might be a good time. It doesn't really matter, but it does mean that it doesn't come out of date on the very year that we're going to a vesting year. So I don't think it changes anything. It's just a date on the cover at this moment in time, isn't it, really? So just a couple of points, really. Thanks.
In terms of Thanet and Dover's data, I don't have that data, but I think that's something that we would be looking to work with them on once we get to know more about who our partners are going to be. I think we can start to look at that already. In fact, coincidentally reached out to Dover's asset manager just today about touching base and getting together on that. So I think work will start on that already. In terms of the date, we can look at that. I mean, we could review it kind of maybe at the point at which we get the stock condition surveys done and we know more about our longer term plans. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I think it would be better to push it well into the new unitary authority. I mean, it doesn't matter what date it is, as long as it's in it by a year or two or three. I think it's be sensible there. So just a quick one. Do you want to come back on that, Marie? Because then I know Charlotte wants to speak and I was going to ask Leah a question too.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just the commonality across the districts is everybody's working to get stock up to decent home standard. So there will be synergy. There will be sort of that cross synergy across the boundaries.
That's good. Okay, Charlotte.
I note the ambition to complete the stock surveys by July 26. I was just wondering if at that point the sort of culmination of the data will be shared again with maybe overview, maybe us, maybe another committee. I wasn't sure. The report's excellent and really sort of puts in place how that's going to how everything will proceed. So I thank you very much for that. And just on page 140, 141, one page says we have 8 5-bedroom homes, and the next page says we have 9. So just an inconsistency over those pages. But where does the stock survey data land in July, August, September? Thank you.
Yeah, okay. You can come back on if you do want to.
So we are committed to getting the stock condition surveys done by July, as you said, and we will have all the data within our system. We will need time to analyse that data and pull out that information. So it will come back to the advisory committee. I think Marie can confirm that. But as soon as we've got information and data that we can share with you, we will be happy to do that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Do you want to just come back on that, Marie? Yeah.
So the data from the stock conditions will be used to do a longer term planned works investment plan. So it would form part of the HRA budget setting process as well. It also links into the HRA business plan, which is on the to-do list to refresh in the next 12 months.
Yeah, that actually adds even more weight to the fact that it needs to be a longer term plan. Actually, doesn't it? Yeah, what are we going to do with it? Because we won't do all of that in 3 years, will we? I mean, you know, it's going to be 10 years probably. So obviously we struggle to get that spend anyway. That's not a bad, you know, it's just one of the things of life, isn't it? God knows what we got to do. It could be loads or it could be not much. We don't know, do we? I was just going to comment, Lee, that obviously this is all data driven. And in your portfolio, I mean, that's obviously just whatever's needed, really. We need to sort of move forward on, don't we? And I mean, the whole thing will fall apart if that data doesn't come forward. Do you want to update us where we are? I know there's some work being going on databases and that.
Yeah, apologies. I can't get my email, so Marie and the other officers will know the name of the system. But I had a chat with David, and me and Pip spoke a couple of months ago. I think there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, isn't there, about getting the data merged and interacting between the teams, what you need IT to provide. I think it's mentioned in the report, Chair, that there's quite a disconnect between IT provide the system that's been there a while, and then officers are meant to put the data in. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on the scenes. I haven't got a very recent update, but last I was aware, IT were working actively with HRA to do something positive about the making the data collection process better. But I know it's like a lot of our systems, it's a legacy system that's currently being used, so it's a bit of a concern. And just to touch on one point, I know Officer Caroline Marlowe has been speaking to other authorities about the transition when the authorities change. I think that's a big factor in what we do. If we put too much effort into something brand new and then it obviously changes, that was the last conversation I had. Just give it
Yeah, that's fine. I think as long as we're well ahead of that and we're doing what we need to do, because it's absolutely critical, isn't it, on so many fronts. So, yeah, Susie.
Thank you, Chair. Just on a couple of points. One, in terms of local government reorganisation, we are moving into a period of housekeeping, I guess you could call it at this point, making sure that all of the data that we hold across all of our services is fit for purpose. And that's in advance of working in partnership with the councils that will be in the new unitary with us, which we will, of course, know later on next year. So that's one bit. In terms of extending the housing strategy, what we'll do, we'll take it away, have a look and see if there are any implications of changing the dates on it. If there aren't, we will just extend it to, 2030? If you can agree that, maybe this evening, if we can just do that. If there are any implications, we'll bring back a simple paper just highlighting what those are so you can formally make those changes at a future meeting. Okay, thank you.
Sounds like a plan. We're all happy with that? I think it just pushes and does that. It gives a bit of elbow room, doesn't it? Yeah. Any other comments on that? Otherwise, I think it's a really good place to start building a really resilient, portfolio of our property, isn't it? So we know what's going on. Any other comments or thoughts from anybody? Need to resolve this again, don't we? So we need to resolve that. It's been proposed and seconded, so let's do it. So thank you very much.
That's carried unanimously, Chair, with 8 votes.
Now let's just do finish up, isn't it? 9:13. I've lost a page. 12:13. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Lucky for some, as people might say. Item 13 is the date and time of the next meeting, which is 7 p.m. on the 19th of January. In your diaries, please. Any other urgent business to be dealt with in public? No, none at all. Okay. We don't need to exclude the press and public. I don't think there's nothing on there. There's nothing in the private section of the agenda. So with that in mind, I close the meeting as of